Do you remember the 80s? Do you remember Skips? Duran Duran. Eating Skips while listening to Duran Duran. Ceramics, maybe? The text adventures. Playing text adventures with an uncertain presence in your house. Getting closer. Getting closer. Don't turn around. Stories Untold is a collection of 4 short games featuring 1980s computer terminals, all of which are the sort of thing you should play alone and on a dark and stormy night. But the similarities between them end there. Each chapter is going to creep you out. You'll go into the next one thinking, whew, at least I'm more prepared for this one, only to have the rug pulled out from under you over and over again, as if you were a toddler being bullied in an IKEA. And to tell you anything else about Stories Untold feels like a shame. And that's it. That's your review, because Stories Untold is so full of twists and 80s nostalgia that it resembles a cross between M. Night Shyamalan and a Slinky. So I don't want to say anything, and because I can't say anything, there's nothing I can say that's going to convince you as much as playing Stories Untold's free demo, which is the first chapter of the game. It's absolutely fantastic, and you should get involved. But if you do desperately want a few extra minutes of video content, then I'll talk around Stories Untold for a bit, thanks to the power I'm getting from these fantastic skips. So I've got this fear that the Stanley Parable is going to be remembered in the history of games as a masterpiece of postmodernism. It was funny and well observed and expertly made, and I liked it a lot. I like anything that holds up a mirror to video games and shows you how insane they are. This week I've been playing Super Mario Galaxy 2 for the first time, and at this point in the video I was going to write a passage about the insanity. I mean, look at this. I'm using multiple Byzantine controllers to control a speechless plumber on a TV and run him around pocket dimensions, but it just felt like fish in a barrel. I mean, look at me. Jesus, what am I doing? Ignore me, buddy. Just keep on playing your video game. And yet the thinness of the Stanley Parable would be shown when Davey released his next game, which was The Beginner's Guide. Here is another game that holds up a mirror to the craft of game design, but where there was depth on either side of that mirror, as if the glass were a magical portal between two realms, neither of which felt entirely safe. This was a game that didn't just understand the language of games, but had something to say in that language. The Beginner's Guide doesn't just stand up to games criticism's most rigorous artistic analysis, it looms over games reviewers and games reviews, because games writers are never faced with works of art as nuanced and complicated as this, which makes The Beginner's Guide sound boring, I suspect. So let me put it this way. The Beginner's Guide made me laugh, cry, think, and try not to think about really awful subjects, all in just over an hour. But whichever of Davey's 2 games you prefer, and Lord knows you should play both of them, they're world firsts, and they prove that games are in this period of introspection right now. We've got games that are about games, but more excitingly, games that are so fluent in the language of games that they can ask questions in that language and even just pose tongue twisters and riddles in that language. And this is the most exciting thing happening in games right now. VR. It's games like Stories Untold, which we'll get to, but also these. Else Heart.break let us get lost in a hip Scandinavian town where, in a slow, magical realist plot, the player slowly gains the power to rewrite the code of objects in the game, perhaps tinkering with a key so using it on a door always takes you back home, or coding a beer so drinking it makes you handsome. But since code is slippery, the player will often screw up what they attempt, which pairs perfectly with the game's adolescent studenty story of awkwardness and mistakes and figuring out your role in the world and how you can impact the world. Porpentine's Ultra Business Tycoon 3 is free online and absolutely worth playing basically right now. Basically pause this video and go and play it right now. You get a characteristically creative and slimy Porpentine game that's twinned with a more personal story that I won't spoil, but rest assured it's the most nuanced simulator of being in the money business that I've ever encountered, and my talking about it here in this review makes a lot of sense once you've played it. And oh yeah, I'm never going to stop telling people to buy Duskers, a game that uses the slow and awkward command prompt interface of early computing as a barrier between you and the clever 21st century survival game you're playing, creating not just a choking atmosphere, but a whole range of tactical problems. Responding under pressure is easy, typing under pressure is hard. All of these games are experiments in putting two games next to one another and then having them bleed and affect one another, despite the fact they exist in different dimensions. And that's what we've got with Stories Untold as well, although it's a very literal interpretation of what I'm talking about, because all the developers have done is given you a game and then pulled you 2 feet back, so you're watching yourself play the game, and then in doing that, they can recontextualize why you're playing it. The text adventures and puzzles of Stories Untold allow us to instantly take on the role of each chapter's protagonist because we know how those games work. So we find ourselves performing the actions involved in that game, transforming us into the character sat at the game's desk, before we know who that character is. So just as you're looking at the desk in front of you and trying to work out what's happening, you're watching yourself perform the story. One recurring theme in Stories Untold is you, the player, trying to figure out what the source of danger is in a given scene, only to realise that it's you. And worse, you're not safe from yourself. That's going to sound like a spoiler, but it's honestly not, because not only does Stories Untold hit you with this, it also subverts it, and it subverts that subversion, and are you getting what I'm putting down yet? Go and play this game.
Okay, good work. The X-ray is coming through now.
But outside of this grand, pompous narrative stuff, Stories Untold's structure of having 2 games at once just gives the developers some really fun toys to play with. You can have hardware failures, for example, or concurrent sources of information. Focus on me! Or you can shut down one of those sources of information, and it becomes unavailable for a while. And actually, Stories Untold gets great mileage out of just having the players put one of the games down. Or picking it up again. That's enough. Speaking of picking games up, you probably just pick up Stories Untold. Clearly, you've seen how hard I'm dancing around this game without spoiling it. That's because it matters a lot to me that you guys get excited, but I don't want to spoil any of it. I play a lot of experimental games, and I'm quite bored of them. But this one, no, this is truly, truly great stuff. And also, you should play, because I noticed this on my whiteboard today. It says, see that? Why I'm still thinking about Soma? Yeah, that's because I want to make a video on Soma as well, because I'm still thinking about it years on. It's a really great horror game if you can handle something just a little spookier than Stories Untold. I don't know if I'm going to make that video. I might have something else we want to do. So I'd probably just play Soma and then imagine what I'd say. It does get more interesting the deeper you go, though. That's the thing. And also, definitely do play Beginner's Guide if you haven't yet, and do play Ultra Business Tycoon 3. Because all of them are just phenomenal games. Games are really pretty good, aren't they? See you later, everybody. Sort of fused those last few words together, didn't I? See you later, everybody. See you later, everybody. If you'd like to see me later, everybody, then you can do so by supporting the videos we make here at coolghosts.net, which you'll notice have no advertising, receive no money from publishers, and are all just good stuff, we hope. You can support us at coolghosts.net/Patreon. If you just kick us $2 a month, then you've paid for some of this stuff. That's capitalism. It's how it works. It's not a perfect system. It's not a perfect system, but it's what we've got. So if you'd like to support what I've got and you've got, which is capitalism, God help you, you can do that at patreon.com/coolghosts. Both of those URLs work. Goodbye.